Hey guys, it's Luke, and today's video is a deep dive into the Apex Legends player Faide. Faide is best known for having some of the best movement and outplays in the game. He also recently put out a long-awaited movement guide on his channel. I enjoyed watching it and hearing what he had to say, but I also felt he left out a lot. I created this video to better explain how Faide moves, thinks, and plays, for all of the people that want to play more like him or are just curious about how he does it. Before I go into details, I want to mention that a lot of the techniques Faide uses that I will put in the video are possible on controller. That means controller players have just as much to learn as anyone, which is a common misconception. I divided this video into 3 sections. First, I will go over how to play ziplines like Faide, then how he moves and accelerates so quickly, and then how your thought process should be, and how you can apply the learned movement to your gameplay. Faide is perhaps known best for being a beast on ziplines. Knowing how to move quickly and fluidly on a zipline is a useful skill that Faide has clearly mastered. The base of all zipline movement comes from a technique called the zipline super jump. To do this trick, walk up to a zipline and press your button to interact, and then immediately jump off. It is important that you jump as soon as you get on the zipline. If you did it right, your legend should be launched into the air. It's also how you do the more advanced zip-zagging, which is what Faide does. To do it, start by doing a zipline super jump on a vertical zipline. Instantly after, turn back around and do another super jump, and so on. The only catch is that on a freestanding zipline, you can only chain 3 together. The technique used to be more prominent, but then the devs decided to set a limit on how many times you can chain. Faide says in his movement guide that looking up when you do it helps a lot, and I agree. Also, zip-zagging is much more challenging on controller, but as long as you don't play on an extremely low sensitivity, I can confirm it is possible. If you're struggling on controller, hold down the interact button the whole time you do it. This will make it way easier to do it because it takes the timing aspect out. If you're struggling on PC, make sure you have jump binded to scroll wheel, because again, this takes the timing aspect out of it. If you pay close attention to Faide when he plays on ziplines, he manages to get damage off on his opponents without taking little to any himself. A big part of this is because he knows how to super jump into a shot. I like to practice doing this on the zipline in the firing range for a lot of repetition. Faide also loves to use this trick with an arc star and stick his opponents before they have a chance to react. That was the zipline section of the video. The best way to get as good as Faide on the ropes is to practice. Faide even says himself he got to where he is by constantly landing at buildings with ziplines and practicing the techniques. The first thing you probably notice when you watch Faide is how fast he moves. Knowing how to move and accelerate quickly is extremely useful in Apex, and Faide uses all of the tricks in the book to make sure he does. The first thing I want to touch on here are Faide's slide jumps. Most players know how to do the classic slide jump, and probably never gave it a second thought. Changing how you do a slide jump though, is one of the best ways that you can improve movement speed. What Faide does is he holsters his weapon around slide jumps. This gives a speed boost in 2 ways. The first is that you have more momentum going into the jump because running with your weapon holstered is faster, and he also pulls out his weapon out again at the end of the slide. Unholstering your weapon in the air gives you another slight momentum boost. The 2 combined makes for a faster slide jump, and using it in fights will make you a faster player. Another thing Faide has mastered is the timing of his slide jumps. There is a 2-second timer of when you can do another slide jump from when your last one was. Creating the muscle memory of when you are able to do a slide jump as soon as you can will help you not get those annoying dead slides anymore, and increase the actual speed you move around the map. To actually build that muscle memory, I suggest you go into firing range and set up a stopwatch on your phone. Slide around the map and every 2 seconds practice doing a slide jump or your holster before your jump, and then pull your gun out in the air. That is what I recommend you practice for quick and crisp movement. But if you want to add some of Fayde's more flashy techniques, these are the ones you should master. The first is what I call edge sliding. Edge sliding is where you slide off a little edge or the end of a surface. It gives you easy momentum going in the direction you would like to go. All you have to do is jump and plan to land on the edge of something and be crouched when you hit it. Edge sliding gives more velocity and speed when moving around the map, which is another trick Faide uses to be a faster moving player. I also want to throw in that you can edge slide backwards. It works in the exact same way, except the momentum gained is backwards. The next trick is a flashy way to outplay an opponent on a door. If you are holding a door with an enemy on the other side, you can use a Faide classic. How it works is you climb the wall directly next to the door, or the door itself. Most of the time the enemy will open the door and rush in. You need to be prepared for that, and as you hear the door open, jump off and shoot them mid-air. Almost always they won't expect you coming from above them, and it's a good way that I see Faide use often to kill his opponents. Most people know what wall bouncing is and how to do it, but if you don't know how to wall bounce, it's where you slide jump at a wall, and when you are about to hit the wall, let go of all other inputs except for jump, and you should do a bounce off the wall. Faide uses this tech in two main ways in game. For one, he uses it as a strafing device to avoid being hit. If Faide is being shot at and there's a wall near him, he will often hit a wall bounce. This throws off his attacker's aim and sometimes confuses them on where he will be. The other interesting way Faide uses a wall bounce is to get over walls and ledges faster. When you climb a wall, there is an animation where your character has to hoist themselves over the wall. This animation is obviously slow and easy to be shot in. To get around the animation, Faide can use a wall bounce off the same wall he is trying to get over. If you are approaching the wall, straight on, do a slide jump at the wall, and do a wall bounce off it. As you are in the air from the wall bounce, turn and look sideways while pressing the directional input to get you over the wall. At the end, you can turn back around to face the direction you are going. If you are running parallel with the wall, all you have to do is a normal wall bounce. It may sound complicated, but a little time in the firing range and you can get it down. Before I move on to the next part of the video, I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. These videos take some work for me to make, and as of right now, I make no money from them, so that would really help me out. The next technique I want to touch on is tap strafing. Tap strafing is responsible for some of Fayde's most extreme movement and outplays. It's simply a technique that allows you to sharply change directions by tapping the movement inputs. This is the only thing I included in the video that controller players can't do. I'm sorry controller players, but there is a technique like tap strafing that is possible on controller I showed in my movement every Apex Legends player should know video. I suggest you watch it after you finish this one. So to tap strafe, you simply press your forward input multiple times while holding down the directional key you want to go, being D or A. While you do that, simultaneously flick your mouse in that direction. The result is a very sharp turn. Again, it helps if your forward input is binded to scroll wheel up or down, and makes executing a tap strafe much easier. Faide tap strafes almost all the time. He does it so much I sometimes don't even realize he is. It's part of what makes his movement look so crazy and foreign. If you ever see him change directions instantly out of nowhere, now you know how he does it. Incorporating tap strafing into your gameplay is something I highly recommend because it opens doors to things like strafing off a jump pad and controlling your wall bounces. It is also something Faide uses to make his movement better. The last part of my Faide guide is 3 big things unrelated to just movement or techniques that you can do to play more like Faide. The first thing that Faide does very well is being aware of his surroundings. What I mean by this is he not only keeps track of where enemies are, but he also knows where everything usable to him is. For example, doors, ziplines, escape routes, and armor swaps. It is very helpful to create this mental map in your mind like Faide does. That way, you always know where to go to heal or escape someone, and you'll never be left wondering where to go or what to do. This is a lot of the reason why it seems like Faide can get out of anything, because he has a plan for every situation. This takes time, experience, and map knowledge to build, and don't expect it to come right away. But having a mental map and being aware of your surroundings is a big step towards being able to play like Faide. A big part of being a movement god is to always be moving. Faide's fast and movement-based playstyle comes a lot from the fact that he is always moving. Watch one of his videos and see how long he stands still for. I guarantee you, Faide never holds the same angle or stays in the same place for more than a few seconds at a time. This makes his gameplay look much quicker and also helps him improve his movement. You can't get better movement if you're never moving. All in all, if you want to be a good movement player, you have to make sure you are actually moving. The last thing I recommend you do if you want to play more like Faide is to actually watch and study him. When you watch a gameplay from him, you should not just be watching. You should be thinking about every decision and move he's making. Why did he shield swap there? Why did he take this angle? Why did he choose to move this way? This kind of thinking will help you get a sense of how you should be making decisions that you can apply to your own game. It also can help you learn new movement. You might see Faide do a creative wall bounce or another cool movement technique that you probably never would have thought of. This would be the perfect time to watch back what he did and how he did it. Practice it, and after a while, you'll find yourself having new creative movement to do in games. And eventually, you might even see yourself playing a little like Faide. That was the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned a thing or two about Faide, or at least some new movement you can use in your gameplay. I encourage you to like, subscribe, and comment on what you think about the video. If you still do want to improve your movement after this, I have a few videos on my channel that I highly suggest you check out, including an advanced movement guide with movement you probably didn't even know existed, and also another guide with movement techniques that every player should know, that I know will be super useful to anyone trying to improve. Thank you for watching.